Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody, to the Health Revolution. We're excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and no matter which way you are tuning into us, whether it's Roku, Apple, LinkedIn, Amazon Fire, you name it, definitely please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. And don't forget, we have important show notes for today's episode. There's a tab at the bottom of your screen, so make sure that you reference that whenever you need to. So today's episode is unique and exciting because as we continue to dive into how to optimize our health, it's not just the physical piece, it's the mental and the emotional elements as well. We know that there are the micro subtopics that are important for us to remember. One of those is the power of sweat. And we all know that sweating is part of the human factor, but we may not realize all of its comprehensive benefits. And today we're going to dive into that. So I'm excited to introduce to you my next guest. First, and let's watch this and get to know him. Here we go. Meet Justin Glaser, a University of Michigan alumnus and the visionary author behind Sweat, Uncovering Your Body's Hidden Superpower. After facing his own health challenges, Justin embarked on a quest that led him to uncover the remarkable benefits of sweat for health, vitality, and disease prevention. Through his global research, Justin has explored everything from Native American sweat lodges to modern scientific labs, gathering insights from experts around the world. His book, Sweat, is a testament to his journey. And today, we get to uncover the benefits not widely recognized through sweat. Justin Glaser, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad that you're here. Let's get right into it. So you being the author of this book, it's not the most common topic, and yet I'm curious to see a little bit of the behind the backstory. What was your path that led you to write this book? What was some of the humble beginnings, if you will?
Sure. Yeah, so I grew up perhaps without the deepest knowledge of health. And so I grew up in New Jersey, had a normal upbringing. Everything was kind of typical. And by the time I hit college, my health kind of hit a breaking point. So I had probably a pretty standard American diet, wasn't really aware of any health practices. And what happened was it kind of led me into a lot of chronic fatigue, a lot of anxiety, a lot of automatic negative thinking, all these symptoms that just kind of built up by the time I hit college. And I realized that something had to change. And so I started diving into the world of health. That started with diet, that started with going to doctors, and really became to see other people who seemed to have more vibrancy, more energy than me. And I wasn't clear on what was holding me back. And so that led me to, exploring literally dozens of modalities, everything from psychology to Western doctors, Eastern doctors, diet, exercise, all these different lanes to try and figure out how I could improve my health. And ultimately what happened was after about a year and a half of struggling through this, by the time I graduated college, I stumbled into a sauna, did one session and felt more relief from my symptoms than everything else combined, really. I felt a glimpse of kind of like my childhood energy levels and my childhood like brain function and all this stuff. And I had no idea why it was helping so much. So I kept doing it. over the course of about 2 years. And during that period, I dove really deep into the research to understand why it was helping me and also discovering why it was helping so many other people. And so, primarily through sauna and sweat, which we'll get into, and a few other modalities, I was able to really heal and feel, 10 out of 10 again. And realized that a lot of these ideas were kind of disparate and separated, and I wanted to put it together into an easily digestible book that could hopefully shortcut people's health journey in the way that it did for me, or rather, shortcut their health journey in what took me years of kind of moving through this crazy maze of the health world to figure out. So, yeah.
And one of the things that I'm curious about is, did you, like myself, I will say that college was not my healthiest days. It was not, it wasn't something that was on the forefront in my mind. And so I was not exposed to the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle growing up. What was the message that you had with your family? Were you ever exposed to that? Was it something that you found yourself going full circle? What was that like for you?
I wasn't aware of what was unhealthy, let's say, in like the cupboard or especially in like the diet side. I played sports. I was athletic. I ran and tried to go to the gym a few times a week, that kind of thing. And my mother was always interested in health related things. She liked like essential oils and, was starting to get it. But it was really like a lack of awareness around like what like truly healthy living is. And so it felt a lot like deprogramming my like, like I look at things kind of with fresh eyes after studying a new topic. And so, um, for me, I think what happened was just this kind of accumulation of, uh, negative substances in my body. We're going to go into toxins later on in this conversation that just kind of hit like a breaking point, sort of like a rich get richer, poor get poorer kind of metaphor, I think. So I don't think I was living any kind of, I probably had more access than a lot of people in terms of access to information, but I wasn't aware of what the good information was. So, yeah.
So when you started to stumble upon, take me back to when you went to use the sauna. Was it something that somebody had mentioned, oh, hey, you should do this. This is something that I think it'll help. Or were you just like, I'm willing to do anything. Let me just, and it was just one of those things that you were trying to check off the checklist off of your paper.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out one why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and so that I got blood tests, I got genetic tests, I went to doctors. I tried pills at one point. I thought it was in my head. I'd meditate, I'd do journaling, I'd go to the gym, I changed my diet. So it was all these things that, or a lot of those things at least, are great. But there was an order of operations thing, so that by the time a friend recommended, "Hey, have you ever tried a sauna?" and I went and did it, I wasn't aware. I at that time didn't know why it was helping me so much. And so as I researched and understood it, it kind of made sense looking back exactly why it's so helpful and so necessary for people.
So that first time that you were in the sauna, and so you were like, all right, let's give this a go. How long were you in there for?
Probably 30 minutes. So I went in, not expecting much, kind of expecting for my hopes to be kind of dampened again, like a lot of these other things I had been trying. Went in with a couple towels, sweat a ton, obviously, was wiping myself down. Felt pretty good, got out, took a shower, and kind of looked in the mirror and felt this like clarity that I hadn't felt in a really long time. And it was just a glimpse of it. But what I did is I just kept, I went 4 or 5 times a week for 6 months plus, and made it a part of my routine. And kind of like a stair-stepping graph, it wasn't immediate results, but it was ultimately what it kept moving in an upward trend in terms of how I'd feel every day.
So I'd like to add clarity. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if because your first sauna experience was 30 minutes right off the bat, I'm kind of wondering out loud if maybe it's because of your athletic tolerance that maybe you've had a history of endurance through playing sports, through organized sports or games that maybe that led to it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, and then definitely add your input, is for some people, I just want to be clear that just a couple minutes for the very first time being in the sauna can feel overwhelming because of the
Yes.
temperature and that it's a new environment. Can you speak a little bit about that? Do you feel like it was from your athletic background?
Um, Possibly. I mean, I also, to be clear, I stepped out a couple times and drank some water
Okay.
and got back in.
Okay.
So it wasn't 30 minutes straight, which even now, if you don't like step out, it's quite a lot to take. So I advise people to, do what you can and build up your tolerance in the same way you would with, a running routine or going to the gym. You slowly build it up. You don't overload yourself. Um, so yeah, it wasn't 30 straight, but it ultimately was about 30 minutes of being in there.
Do you remember the temperature of the sauna? And was this at, like, say, a local gym, or was this at some sort of med spa where that was a feature?
It's funny. It was actually at higher dose, which was they were kind of the first people to bring infrared saunas to New York City. So they were like one of the first people to set up clinics. And then when they did that, they had celebrities coming because it was the new thing. And I was fortunate. I actually interviewed one of the co-founders for the book. So it was one of those centers. And then as I realized I needed to make it part of my routine, buying like a monthly access essentially.
When you went ahead and took that shower for after your first experience and you felt, it sounds like you felt invigorated, that this was a drastic difference from before. Did you put
Yeah.
two and two together, or or was there any hesitation where you're like, let me do this again? Let me see if I can. What was your thought process afterwards?
I was confused.
Okay.
I had no kind of reference point for why it was helping me so much, which I think was rather interesting because I think a lot of times, there's a lot of research on placebos and things like that, where you can be told what it's going to do for you, and then you're kind of looking for that result. This was like me really not expecting anything to happen. And so when it helped, I was like, what about that was helping? Was it the heat that my body needed to get hot? Was it like an endurance test? Is it like an endorphin rush that's not going to last? Is it the sweat, which ultimately I believe it is? um, so it really didn't make sense. But once I did it, it became obsessive figuring that out. So reading books, finding sauna experts, joining online communities, reaching out to people, and ultimately going down this wild rabbit hole where I probably interviewed 30 different people for the book in a few different disciplines to kind of bring these ideas together.
So I'm curious, the first thing was that level of invigoration that happened where you still went with it and discovered all that you have. What were some of the more surprising areas that your life improved in the immediacy after starting this for the first time?
I was at the point where I was supposed to go on a trip when I graduated college where I was supposed to do a long hike in Nepal with one of my friends as like a finishing school like fun thing to do. And my parents wouldn't let me go because they were like, we think you die. And it wasn't a crazy hike. It's just I looked so depleted and like I had a hard time walking a block in the city. And so that kind of, I would say the energy, almost like a battery, it just felt like I was like my phone was gonna die. Like getting that up and this feeling of ultimately now, like I love going for long walks, but back then it was like a hassle and this brain fog and this energy, which I believe I have a really good grasp on what was happening and why this helped so much. But ultimately, that initial kick of having energy again was really intoxicating.
How was sleep affected in those beginning days, months, that this became a new habit, a new approach that you were integrating in your life?
Yes, sleep. Personally, for me, sleep has never been. I've always been head on the pillow, fall asleep 8 hours. So that was never a challenge. I'd say a little bit more mental clarity when I'd wake up, a little less time to like kind of come online. And I certainly experienced that even more profoundly with the niacin sauna protocol, which I hope we can talk about later. Um, so yeah, it helped with the sleep, I'd say. And it's this kind of, when your energy levels go up, it kind of touches into everything in your life. So it's this whole different way of relating to every experience you're having. So that's kind of why I was so laser focused on it, because I realized if this can really take me out of this state, everything is going to change in terms of my experience of life. So
What was the feedback you got from your inner circle as you were starting to embark on this? Because until before this, as my understanding, you were not an author. This was your first book that you've written. So, what was the immediate feedback from family, from those close to you? What, as you were very enthusiastically saying, this is changing my life. What were some of the feedbacks that you got from them?
I hope I wasn't preaching too much, but I think they, at least my immediate family, were just grateful to see me kind of having like life in me again. And so, whatever works, I'm glad it's helping you, kind of thing. Um, I don't think before I wrote this book, at least, it was like Justin's the sauna guy. Um, but it was just becoming, in the same way the gym becomes a part of your life, it was just becoming a regular component of my routine. So ultimately, not too much pushback. I think I was kind of early a little bit on like the American wave of sauna becoming this huge thing. And I think we're still early in it. And I hope this book helps promulgate those ideas. Um, so I'm glad it wasn't some really obscure thing that really helped me that made me look like a lunatic. Um, so it's been okay.
What were some of the more predictable expectations that you had for you being a part of that, this being a part of your life that you knew was going to happen, or that you had a funny feeling was going to come to fruition, and in fact it came to life gangbusters? What were some of the outcomes physically that you realized that were really truly solidifying this journey?
The outcomes from my sauna and sweating.
Yeah, your experience, you integrating this being a part of your life, and then this being the catalyst to the book.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled to imagine where I'd be without having stumbled into sauna, for me personally. And I don't think I'm so individually unique. I think I was just put in a unique position where my back was against a wall, where I had to figure this out. And I was able to put these ideas together that I think apply to everyone, whether they're in my position like I was, or you want to stave off disease down the line and just want to feel better on a day to day. So for me, it just changed everything. My energy went up, my mood improved, my brain fog completely disappeared. Brain fog is this weird thing where, um, because we're all in our own head, we don't have a reference point for like what mental clarity feels like. So I think of the movie Limitless, actually, with Bradley Cooper, where he like takes a pill and all of a sudden his brain's on. I feel like after doing a ton of sauna, that didn't make as much sense to me because my brain just felt like it was on. Like I didn't have this sense of like there's like another level to brain function, if that makes sense. But just even removing brain fog was a huge thing. Colors became more vivid. Um, I believe if I took an IQ test before and after, it would improve. And I've got interesting research on that in the book from one of the protocols I mentioned. So just transformative, and everything's upstream of health. So when this gets improved, just everything you're doing gets improved.
One thing I do appreciate about your journey and getting to know you and what you represent is that you didn't resign to any limiting beliefs. So you just mentioned a few moments ago, your back was against the wall, but you were still willing to leave no stone unturned. And there seems to be a theme for those who have breakthrough success with their health, in that you don't give up looking. You can be frustrated, but you don't give up looking. You don't give up searching. There's that level of resilience that is part of your journey. Before we go to break, can you talk a little bit about what really helped you stay consistent and be determined to find a solution to where your health was back then?
It's hard for me to remember like what it was like at that point, but it just felt like if I don't figure this out, my life is going to be awful. Is really how it felt. And so it was less of this like beautiful outcome I was looking for, and more like avoiding the fire behind me kind of thing. And so, it just kind of felt like do or die. I think like people who met me, it wasn't like I was, hospital in the hospital or like bedridden. But for me, it just felt like I knew what the difference was if I stayed in that state versus I got out of that state. And so I'm just fortunate that I kept pushing and kind of went through just to the labyrinth of the health world and ultimately found a thesis and an idea that worked for me. And then I was able to reverse engineer why it worked for me and why it works for so many other people. And then also why it's not being talked about, which is another interesting component. And then, being able to fortunately use my skills to put a book together to help people with it.
And we're definitely going to dive into the book. And first, we're going to take a break. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hey there, fitness friends. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, we're unfolding the magic of stretching and a simple life hack to make it even more effective. Now, stretching is like a love letter to your body. It increases flexibility, reduces muscle tension, and can even improve posture. But here's a tip to take your stretching game to the next level. Stretch right after a shower. Why, you ask? Well, the warmth from the shower helps to loosen up your muscles, making them a bit more pliable. This means you can stretch a little deeper and reap greater benefits without as much effort. So, after your next shower, take a few minutes to go through a gentle stretching routine. Focus on areas that feel tight and remember to breathe deeply and move slowly. Now, this simple life hack can help you start your day feeling much more relaxed and limber. Plus, it's a great way to incorporate stretching into your daily routine without having to carve out extra time. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites, and here's to stretching our way to a more flexible and fabulous self.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Justin Glaser, author of the book Sweat, Uncovering Your Body's Hidden Superpower. And before we went to break, we were talking about the backstory behind his discovery of improving his health, getting that clarity, and just elevating things to new heights, which was the catalyst to his book. And Justin, I do want to talk about that. How did you know that your calling was led to writing this book? How did you know that that was the next step? And talk to us a little bit about that framework that launched you to become an author of this book.
Sure. Yeah. So I went through that process, kind of learned all this information just for myself in order to heal, and also out of curiosity as I went through that process. So by the time I kind of came out the other end and felt healthy again and great and continuing to use those tools, I wasn't sure. I was surprised when I talked to people how little knowledge they knew, because I forget, it was almost like the movie Memento or something where I'd forget what it was like not to know. And so I just kept feeling irked that these ideas were so simple and so intuitive once you understood them, yet we're still missing from the conversation outside of very small niche communities where the results were incredible. And so I was actually inspired when I saw the book Breath by James Nestor and the deep dive into that. And I thought to myself, I think there's real opportunity to share the information that I've learned in sweat. And so deciding to kind of undergo that project was, exploring a few options and realizing I thought this could have the biggest impact. Was felt like it would really bother me for the rest of my life if no one really put those ideas together for people. And so committed to the year of, carving out time, writing it, researching it, putting the interviews together, and getting the book together for people.
Let's see if we can bring up that slide here. We've got a copy of the book, and talk a little bit about how long did it take for you to write it, and when did you launch the book, and what were some of the findings along the way as this book came to light, came to be published, all of that.
Yeah, and it looks like you've got a QR code there for people. So if anyone wants to scan and check it out. So I decided March of last year, I committed to writing it. So that was carving out time every single day to make a habit of putting it together. That was an interesting process because it wasn't starting from step one. I already had a lot of the information. I knew what the chapter layout would be. I knew what I wanted to communicate to people. It was just filling it in and committing to it. So some of the interesting things I learned as I wrote the book, not beforehand, I would say the main one is I start off the book with the sweat history. So looking at cultures around the world who have some ritual around sweating, and I had some sense, but I was kind of amazed by how many cultures have some sort of sweat lodge, banya ritual. The Native American sweat lodge, the Russian banya, Peruvians have sweat lodges, like the Finnish, all these cultures around the world who are separate have rituals around heat and sweat. And so to me, that was kind of reaffirming that these ancient cultures intuitively understood the power of this. And then in the book, I explain why, while it was important then for different reasons, it's more important now than ever with sort of the modern chemical revolution of the last 60 years, contributing to a lot of the issues we're seeing. So that I would say that was the big reaffirming learning I had in the writing process. And the book came out November 15th. So it was about 6 months of daily writing, putting it together and really immersing myself in the process.
That's fantastic. One thing I wanted to ask you is, what is the difference between, say, sweating in an environment such as a sauna or a sweat lodge and the natural sweating that happens after our heart rates are elevated, we've exerted ourselves in some sort of any type of physical activity, sport or not? What is the difference? What have you found the difference between those two scenarios?
So there's three main types of sort of places saunas essentially, right? So there's a steam room, a dry sauna, and an infrared sauna. So when you think of typically if you go to a public sauna, it's going to be a dry sauna. Occasionally it's infrared if it's group. And then steam room is when you walk in and it's, fog and you can't see really, and it's dark and damp. In the book and in my research, I advise not to use steam room actually. Mold grows in dark, damp places. That's what a steam room is. And you're also breathing in typically contaminated water vapor, like just directly into your lungs. And you're also blocking your ability to sweat to some degree. So preferably you do a dry or infrared sauna. Infrared saunas are a newer technology. It doesn't feel as hot when you're in an infrared sauna, but you're actually raising your core body temperature with the infrared, and you typically sweat more actually. And so there's some arguments that it's a better detox, but both dry and infrared are great.
Are there certain conditions that are more preferred for dry for people undergoing certain health conditions or under certain diagnosis versus infrared, or vice versa? Are there ones that are much more appropriate for certain conditions?
Overall, it looks like infrared is just a better choice, with the caveat of making sure it's a quality brand. So the sauna industry is unregulated. So the two things to look out for are toxins in the builds and EMFs with infrared specifically. So with toxins in the build, if you think of like a plastic water bottle in a car, in the summer, you leave and you come back and take a drink, it's going to taste like plastic because toxins migrate with heat. And so a lot of saunas will cut corners essentially, and they'll do builds with glues, flame retardants, bamboo, which is toxic, things that when heated, especially in a closed environment, you're doing the opposite of what you're in there to detox this stuff. You're actually breathing it in. So unfortunately, there's things to look out for there. And then also EMFs, which is electromagnetic frequencies, which is sort of a newer topic, but a serious cause for concern, especially if you're going to do this regularly.
So I know that there's more of an uptick in saunas being more in the forefront. More people are starting to take advantage of those, take advantage of that being an activity to partake in. How can a consumer stay up to date, or how are they able to distinguish or find out whether a sauna environment is safe or not? What's the best practice for them?
So for public saunas, it's a little bit trickier. The good thing is those saunas are typically on for most of the day for years. And so there's any of those chemicals and things are off-gassed quicker would be the argument. And so it's less prevalent in the environment. So dry saunas in public, I think are okay, better than not for sure. If you're buying your own sauna, typically the companies will have, hopefully have EMF reports and VOC reports, which are volatile organic chemicals. So they should have testing for things like microplastics, EMFs, and things like that. But really the best way I would say is joining online Facebook communities. Maybe we can link to one. There's one called the Sauna and Ice and Detox Protocol community, 50,000 members. And so the members will actually go and do those tests because a company will say it's low EMF, and then they have their own EMF meter and they go in and it's sky high and it's unregulated. So unfortunately, a lot of companies kid themselves. So, yeah.
So one area in our communities is gyms, and especially the big box gym chains might often carry saunas. I know that that in our area, there are a variety of different gyms that have saunas. And what tends to be the trend for those? Is there anything to be on the lookout for just in terms of gyms, whether it's temperature, regulation? What are best practices for gym members if they're looking to, or they're already taking part in sauna practices?
So one of the frustrations I've experienced is there's not a lot of education around this. So what you should do is go into your sauna really in just a cotton towel and no polyester clothing, not your shoes in there, not your phone, not a plastic water bottle, because all that stuff is going to off-gas chemicals into the air in a closed environment. But unfortunately, if you go into a public one, you're not going to be able to control other people's behavior. So it'd be nice if that kind of took on, gym chains understood that and had rules in place in the same way you have rules in the gym. So in terms of control for yourself, go in and preferably just a white organic 100% cotton towel and bring a couple more in and just go into the sauna like that. In terms of heat, you want it as hot as you can tolerate, really. And again, it's not about destroying yourself. It's about building tolerance, working your way up. If that means you can only be in there for 3 minutes and you want to step out and get water, great. Hopefully in 30 seconds you feel better and you can get back in. So it's just a building up thing.
Is there any type of impact that saunas will have if someone goes in on an empty stomach? Like if, say, like they were physically active, they went to the gym and now they're going to go into the gym's sauna, for example. Is there a timing piece behind best practices, hydration? Is there any type of things to be on the lookout for, or just general things to consider when you're choosing to do that as part of your physical activity?
Great question. One of my family friends is a nutritionist, and she asked me, I don't sweat in the sauna, and I sent her a list of recommendations, and one of those was exercise before. And she said, I sweat so heavily after you recommended that. I did the gym and then the sauna. And there's interesting arguments for that. One being you're mobilizing toxins by burning energy, and so then your body uses it as an opportunity to sweat. On the other side, you want to make sure you're using supplements, replenishing. You're sweating a lot of good and bad stuff out. So having really nutrient-dense diet, hopefully electrolytes, and getting your minerals in through, real spring water or whatever source.
So you mentioned, let's talk about toxins for a few moments. What are some surprising things that we don't realize that come from the benefits of utilizing a sauna with toxins, trying to eliminate toxins in our environment, in our bodies? What's your take on all of that? What's your favorite way to really highlight this area that would be important for us?
So when I was going through that research process and I came across toxins as an issue, the kind of cultural awareness of it was what I went with first, which I would say is it's this fringe kind of hippie topic that isn't real thing. Ultimately, the core argument in my book is massive underestimation of toxins as a root cause of health issues, and then sweat, the research showing it's the absolute, arguably the best way to detoxify these substances. Our skin's the largest detox organ, and I go really deep on both of those components. This really underestimated issue, and then this profound natural method for getting it out. And so ultimately, that's what you kind of become convinced of is toxins are pretty much any substance that reliably, predictably causes harm in the body. And there's a lot of them with this chemical revolution that's gone on the last 60 years. And I go into the different sources of where they come from. And then also the research on specifically sweat, sauna, niacin sauna protocol to detox. And ultimately, that's what I think happened to me was I had a high toxic load. I was able to steadily get it out. And ultimately, my health just kind of returned as a result.
What did your doctors tell you afterwards? Did you have a follow-up visit with your doctors to a little epilogue behind your backstory? Were you able to say, hey, look what happened? And were you able to have that conversation? And if so, how did it go?
Not so much. I was trying different people, dissatisfied with the approaches. And I have a few friends who are doctors who I've spoken to about this, who are supportive of the book. It's not rocket science, but it's certainly not the first place people go to in terms of a thought process. So it's been really interesting looking at the different schools of thought and how people are in their own silos and how easy it is to be in those to kind of conform to the group almost. But when you sort of have to find solutions, you don't really care about that. And so I think that was helpful in terms of not being swayed by sort of like what the general beliefs are. But hopefully, I'm hoping that this kind of pervades and allows people to say, of course, this is a real problem. And of course, this is a real solution.
What are there any contraindicators to be on the lookout for a sauna environment? Are there things that maybe it's not a blanket statement, but are there just concerns to be on the lookout for anyone who is really looking into this as a way of elevating their health?
I think talk to your doctor, I'll say. Talk to your doctor. Pregnancy is something to be concerned about, doing sauna pregnant, cardiovascular issues. It depends on if you're physically capable of doing it in the same way. Maybe you might not be ready to go do a heavy workout, So just be cautious and do the research on whatever you're dealing with. And if there's any contraindications for sauna use, just be logical about it, I'd say.
Before we go to our next break, I have a quick question for you. What would you tell the person who sees the benefits of saunas but has an issue with heat? That being in a heat outside the sun, that it's way too much, but then obviously there's somebody who could very well, minus any diagnosis, could benefit from utilizing this.
I would say get a quality infrared sauna because people are often surprised that they start sweating because it doesn't feel that hot in the environment. So rather than heating around you, your core body temperature is raised. And so it doesn't feel that hot, but you're getting the outcome you're looking for.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. We're going to take a commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about, and we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Justin Glaser. He is author of the book Sweat, The Hidden Power, help me out here, Justin,
Uncovering your body's hidden superpower.
Uncovering your body's hidden superpower. Thank you. Thank you very much. So as we were going to break, we were talking about some of the parameters to keep in mind when it comes to embracing this being a new way to elevate your health. And I know in the book you talked about, and you've shared that you have interviewed 9/11 survivors. And I'm curious, what were some of the findings that came out of those interviews that really highlighted the therapeutic power of sweat?
So again, the core thesis being toxins is a major issue, sweat being the best way to detoxify, a lot of research coming to support this. 9/11 victims and a few others like Gulf War survivors are this fantastic anecdotal example of an extreme version of this, right? So 9/11, thousands of people exposed to plumes of toxins, literally building materials, breathing them in just a fog. It was just a mess. And in the aftermath of that, a lot of them experienced brain issues, chronic fatigue, tremors, inability to work and focus, lung issues, pulmonary issues, balance issues, a whole range of things directly caused by inhaling these toxic fumes, right, at an extreme level. They, in a similar way, kind of tried a few different things to figure it out, including, pills, respirators, inhalers, doctors prescribing different substances for them. Nothing was really making a dent. And ultimately what happened is they set up a clinic with an initial batch of 500 people to go through what's called the niacin sauna protocol. And so this protocol is pretty simple, but it involves taking vitamin B3, which is niacin, which when you take, it induces something called lipolysis, which essentially non-technically opens your fat cells and allows the stored toxins to enter the bloodstream. And so a lot of these toxins or chemicals are lipophilic, meaning they're fat-loving, lipophilic, and they store in your fat. And they have a really hard time leaving the fat, but they cause all these problems because they're stored in there. Niacin allows them to release those stored toxins into the bloodstream, and then you time that with the sauna, along with exercise and some supplements, but that's kind of the main gist of it. All 500 people who went through that protocol, all of them got better. 87% of them got off their meds in the first few months. Their before and after IQ test showed subjective increase. They all felt cognitively sharper. Pulmonary issues went away. Just outstanding, clear-cut evidence that this worked. And ultimately, 5,000 people went through that protocol. So I got in touch with a few of them, interviewed them to get their take on it. And it was just fascinating to see how this extreme example kind of highlights sort of the thesis at a lower level for the average person, but still applies.
What has been the dialogue between, say, since you've written the book Sweat, and then and talking with, say, sauna providers, or what's been that like? The piquing of interest. How has that conversation grown, or what direction has it been taking?
It's been interesting. I've spoken with a few of the bigger like sauna companies about different things. A lot of them aren't as aware of the key sort of thesis that I'm putting forward, which is this toxin issue. It's part of their marketing, it's part of their ideas, but I'm arguing that it's the thing, along with these beautiful other ancillary benefits that potentially are related, right? So there's all these studies on all-cause mortality going down with sauna, cardiovascular. My book focuses on sauna, but I'm also saying, if you can sweat heavily multiple times a week through hot yoga or exercise, fantastic. It's just sauna is the low-hanging fruit. So it's been interesting talking with them, and I'm certainly exploring. I'm in conversations with several companies to have them sort of like stock my book and say like their sauna studio franchise, or as a gift with purchase with saunas to educate people. So that's definitely a lane I've been exploring.
I can see the connection between the two, because obviously this is something that they're promoting, the benefits of utilizing sauna technology, and then what your book highlights as things that we need to be aware of that maybe that general society has a tendency not to be aware of. And so, who is the book for? Just to be clear.
The book is for anyone who takes their health seriously, I would say, and for people who are open-minded to hear a new perspective that could potentially change their life around their health. And so I would say that's been sort of the main feedback I've gotten, is it's changed how I've thought about my health. It's given me a new like framework. And ultimately, similar to the conversation with sauna places, it convinces them that in the same way exercise should be part of their routine, heavy sweating through primarily sauna deserves to be part of their routine. They understand why.
So I love the idea of your book being in sauna environments for companies that do promote it. Where else would you envision your book being in the hands of? Like, what environment would you love to see your book in, because of the connection and the win-win situation that would be the result?
I think it's sauna studios. I think it's companies selling saunas. And then I think it's probably hot yoga studios as well. So I think those are kind of the primary ones. If you have other ideas, I'm happy to hear. But that's to me, that to me is where it probably makes the most sense, because it really acts as really a sales tool for those establishments, but also is a real educational tool for the customers. So it's hopefully a real win-win-win. And I'm excited to kind of move some of those opportunities down the field. Yeah.
Before we go to our next break, what are some of the myths that you found that the book has debunked about saunas, about just the environment in terms of the health benefits of sweating?
So one of the main ones is a technicality. If you search on Google, does sweat detoxify toxins? They'll say it doesn't, but it's because they're defining toxins. The technical term isn't toxins, it's xenobiotics, which is like foreign chemicals. And it's not sweat, it's sebaceous sweat. And so because of a technicality, there's all these articles saying it doesn't happen, but there's ample evidence for it. So I've had to kind of refute that technicality when you go to Google search it, which is interesting.
I appreciate the clarification. We're going to take a quick break. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. My guest today, Justin Glaser, author of the book Sweat, Uncovering Your Body's Hidden Superpower. There it is. And Justin, where are you on social media where people can connect with you?
On Twitter, my handle is Hey Justin Glaser, Glaser. And on TikTok, it's the same. I'm primarily on X, so that would be the best way. Then you can email me at justin@sweatthebook.com.
All right. And Sweat the Book is actually your website that you have for the book. Is that right? Yes.
Yes, that's
And do you have any upcoming events or places in which you're planning on sharing the message, sharing the book? Are there any events coming up in 2024 that you've got your eyes set on?
I'm trying to explore TED Talks. That would be great. That's sort of the big one. Other than that, I'm continuing to spread the message through social media, podcasts, and things like that.
Okay. And one more time, and let's see if we can bring the book, just the highlight of the book's cover to see what that is. So Sweat, Uncovering Your Body's Hidden Superpower. I said it right this time. And then of course you can grab the QR code. And if you want to get your copy of that, that would be the way to go. Justin, I really appreciate your time and energy today. Is there anything else, one other thing that you would like to share with our viewing audience about just the hidden power, the healing power, and the hidden powers of sweat?
I really tried to make it no fluff in the book and really just give you every page having valuable information. It's about 130 pages, so it's not a huge read. And I hope people read it. If you email me or message me, I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's available Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and then it's looking like in this month it'll have audiobook available on Amazon.
Okay, that's good to know. Justin, I really appreciate your time and energy. This is not something that I've always given detailed attention to, but obviously there are huge benefits that we need to be aware of. And so thank you so much for sharing the message of your book and how important it is for us to incorporate elements like this so we can elevate our health. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And for everyone who is watching, of course, our website is www.thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can always subscribe to our newsletter. You can keep up with any upcoming information for our show. You can also share any ideas for show topics that we will be glad to over-deliver for you. In addition to that, our QR code for our website is on the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And then, of course, you can find us here on E360 TV. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week. That is all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, take care. We will see you soon.